Welcome everyone who's joining us. We'll be getting started soon. We have a really special guest for you today, and we hope that you're going to enjoy this fireside chat with our invited software engineer. While we wait for others to join in this fireside chat, feel free to shout out where you're joining us from today, and also what you hope to get out of this session using the chat function. You can also send in your LinkedIn profiles and do a little bit of virtual networking while you're at it too. Just going to give it a few more minutes before we kick off. Here's Albert. Hi, Albert.
Hey, Kritika, how's it going? Good morning, everyone. Welcome.
Right, I'm just going to give it one more minute, I think, Albert, before we kick off.
Yep.
In the meanwhile, like I said, feel free to pop in the chat function where you're joining us from and what you would like to get out of this session, so we can tailor our questions accordingly. A quiet crowd. Anyway, I think we'll get started now. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kritika, and I am part of the marketing team here at Academy XI, and I'll be moderating today's fireside chat. I'm a software engineer, ask me anything. I would like to commence by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are virtually gathering today, and from wherever you're joining us from. I'd like to pay my respects to Aboriginal elders past, present, and emerging, who are the knowledge holders and teachers. At Academy XI, we enable professional development and aim to address Australia's digital skills gap. By 2025, it is estimated that an average Australian worker will need 7 new digital skills to close this gap. In terms of the industry, that means newly skilled and reskilled technology workers will be needing to increase by 79% by 2025. That is mind-boggling, that number. So there are plenty of opportunities for you to learn about emerging digital skills and the industry, and also network in our amazing community of design, tech, and business and marketing professionals. Today's fireside chat is a great example of this, and we hope that you will get your questions answered and also gain some inspiration from our amazing guest today. So before I introduce him, let me run through some Zoom housekeeping. We'll be doing an open Q&A throughout the second half of this chat. So throughout both the halves of the chat, please feel free to send in your questions using the Q&A chat function. And for other audience members, we encourage you to upvote any questions that you'd like answered first, so that we can get to the burning ones first. There'll also be a recording of this webinar, and we will be sending that at the end of the presentation to everyone who's participated. So now please allow me to briefly introduce our guest. A problem solver at heart, our guest previously worked as a web developer, building custom responsive websites, custom plugins, and web apps, as well as a WooCommerce website. After over 10 years working in the industry, he's now following his passion of mentoring aspiring software engineers such as yourselves. He's the lead instructor for our software engineering course, here to talk about tech industry insights, our widely popular software engineering course, and also share some insider tips on how to break into the tech industry. Please welcome Albert Palada. Hey, Albert, over to you to introduce yourself.
Hey, Kritika, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Hey, guys, good morning and welcome to our Fireside chat for today. And yes, so I'm Albert, and I've been a software engineer for over 10 years now, and I've been developing apps for the desktop, for mobile, and for the web, right? So, and I'm more than willing and more than happy to share whatever knowledge that I've gained throughout the years. So thanks, glad to have you here.
Thanks for that intro, Albert. We're excited to have you. So I think we should jump right in because we have plenty of questions to get through today. So just to start off really broad, can you share just some broad insights about software engineering as a career? What do you love about it?
Yeah, so definitely software engineering as a career, right? I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it. Some, right, the most common misconception is it's all about coding. Well, don't get me wrong. There's definitely going to be a lot of coding when you start off working as a software engineer, right? But the main thing about being a software engineer, though, it's not about coding. So it's about problem solving. So you have to become a problem solver, and the coding is just a byproduct of the problem that you have solved, right? So without having solved the problem, without understanding a problem, you can't even start to write a code. So I think that's probably one of the key things that you need to remember when you want to become a software engineer. So you need to think analytically and critically, and always having to try and solve problems. I think all of us have the potential, because I think all of us are problem solvers day in and day out, right? It may just be in different aspects of or areas of our lives, right? So yeah.
All right. And the skyrocketing demand for tech skills today, what does that mean in terms of job prospects for software engineers?
Yeah, definitely, especially with due to the pandemic, right? There's been a huge skyrocketing of demand when it comes to soft skills, to software engineering skills, and that is a wonderful opportunity that everyone actually can get onto, right? And I think it's not just due to the pandemic, but I think generally our world globally, uh, Australia is probably just a little bit behind when it comes to the progress, but I think that's where the future is. So you'll find that there's going to be a lot more of demand for these kind of skills. And what that's basically entails to you with is basically so you can become a part of this industry if you want to transition, right? So but obviously knowing that a lot of people actually want to get onto this industry, so obviously there's going to be an increase in the competition as well.
Yeah, good point. No one ever thinks about the competition, right? Anyway, I'll move on to one of these questions that we get all the time. I'm coming from a non-technical background. How do I pivot or transition into a career such as software development? What are the key skills or mindset that I need to have to succeed?
Yeah, so that's actually a very, very good question, Kritika. A lot of people, right, is coming from a different background, sometimes do think of it as if it's rocket science. Well, there are certain areas of software engineering wherein you probably need to be a rocket scientist, wherein you need to have really good math skills, right? But not all of it, though. There is just a specific area of software development or software engineering that would probably require that skill. But in most cases, though, you actually coming from a different background may actually be beneficial. Because once again, what we're trying to develop here are day-to-day problems, and you never know if you might get the chance to work on a software that might just have to do with whatever that you've experienced previously. So you can actually chip in whatever experiences and knowledge that you have gained all throughout those years from being part of that industry, right? And also, coming from a non-technical background isn't really a weakness. It's again, it can become a strength. It just depends on how you use it. And again, I've pointed out earlier that the key thing that you need to have to become a software engineer is for you to have that problem solving mindset, right? So you're always problem solving. And I think no matter which industry you're from, you may not just be aware of it, but you're always solving a problem. Okay, it's just that now you're going to convert the problem that you solve into a solution wherein you have to write a code. And so yeah, so that's basically what it is.
Yeah, that's so true, Albert. Thanks. That was a good point about having those transferable skills that you can bring from any other career or any other industry into software development. Because people sometimes approach it as like this beast or like rocket science, like you said. So it's good and heartening for people to hear that they can bring whatever skills they already have and still succeed in this industry. And then just on a very related note, you mentioned coding. So what is the quickest way for somebody to start their coding journey?
Well, I hate to disappoint you or burst your bubble, but there's no quick way. Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts. All right, so there are no shortcuts in life. Yes, there may be some successful ways that you could probably follow, and it may become effective, right? But again, I don't think there is such a shortcut. The only thing really that matters most is that you just need to get started. And then there's, I believe there are these debates we're in, which is the best programming language to start learning with. Yes, that does become a factor, right? Because some programming languages are actually a lot more difficult to learn because there's just a lot more technicalities that comes with it. And there are some that is a lot more easier to learn. It's easier for you to grasp. There's not a lot of stuff that you need to understand. Wherein there's a lot of computer science concepts that you need to learn, right? So again, although that may become a factor, but what really matters most is that you start learning one programming language. It's just like an analogy would be you learning a language, right? So when you're first born, I don't know whichever country you may came from, you start learning a language, and that usually becomes your mother tongue. It may be English, it may be Spanish, French, Chinese, or Mandarin, whatever, right? You just start with something, right? And now, once you've learned something, you can actually easily learn a new language, which is actually a lot easier compared to you learning a new actual language or a specific language from a certain country. So in software engineering, most programming languages are the same. It's just the way that you write things that's going to be different, and what's going to be transferable are the concepts that you learn, and which is actually what matters the most.
That's definitely heartening to hear about. So you have been teaching the software engineering course for more than a year now at Academy XI, almost 2 years, I think. So can you take us through the major skills or takeaways that students can expect to go away from this course with?
Yes, no, definitely. I've certainly enjoyed working as a lead instructor here with Academy XI, and I will have to say that it's very rewarding seeing my students actually succeed and become software engineer themselves. So one thing that I could say from my students' experience is that the ones who do succeed in this transition, there's actually a lot of them who's coming from a non-technical background, but still they were able to shine and land a job as a software engineer. What sort of traits that help them to become successful is basically, again, you need to always have that passion for learning, because as a software engineer, you probably may be aware of it by now. Even with phones, right? So we do get like new phones every year. So when it comes to technology, when it comes to software development or software engineering, there are always a lot of updates, and so you'll always have to be constantly learning or continuously learning day in and day out, if you wanna keep up with the progress, right? But because I know it doesn't apply to all. There are some who's actually grown old as a software engineer, and they stuck with a specific stack or programming language or set of technologies that they're working with, which is fine, right? And they don't have to learn a new thing. But in your case, though, since you're starting new, then it's beneficial for you to just, you don't need to master them all. You just need to be aware, right? But do have something that's specific wherein you specialize into. And yeah, so again, so it's persistence from the students, and again, so not taking shortcuts. The worst thing that you can do when trying to get into this transition or into a software engineering industry is for you to try and cut corners. And what I found is that the students who've tried to cut corners, right, usually are the ones who struggle. Okay, because there's a lot of information. There's a plethora of information out there. You just need to really go to Google and search for something like programming language tutorial or something. You'll see plenty of tutorials, right? And there's nothing wrong with tutorials, but the thing is, if you grow into always having to depend and rely on tutorials, wherein they're telling you what to do step by step and not being able to problem solve yourself,
Mm.
right? From scratch, from the beginning till the end, till the completion of an application development, right? So which is the main thing that you'll have to actually develop in order for you to succeed as a software engineer.
Right.
Right.
So I understand that getting that problem solving approach and being able to develop their own apps is something that our students will be able to walk away with from this course. And can you advise what specific programming languages this course touches on?
Yeah, so the course that we offer in Academy XI is basically using the Ruby on Rails, JavaScript, and React stack. So that's what we use. But again, I mean, we could always use something else, but for now, because Ruby is actually a pretty easy programming language to use, although it may not be as popular compared to all the newer programming languages that are now existing. Right, but it is again a very good programming language for you to start with, and JavaScript is still basically the main programming language that's mostly widely used in web development in particular.
Yeah, that's right. With Ruby, I've heard remarkably it reads like English, so it's much easier for people to get their head around the syntax. Like they don't have to worry so much about the rules and the punctuation as much as they would in another language.
That's it.
Also, another key factor about our course is the course projects. So can you talk to us a little bit more about that? How hands-on is this course exactly? What can students expect once they start?
Yes, definitely. Our course actually offers an intensive set of hands-on practical exercises. There's a lot of labs. You'll probably just get tired of it. Hopefully not, because they're actually going to be helpful. So because in order for you to successfully become a software engineer, as someone who's just new to this industry, right, or into this field, you need to have plenty of practice, and that is why we have a lot of labs. And our course actually is consist of well 6 phases in total. We start with phase 0, then we have phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So for each phase, starting from phase 0 up to phase 5, so you have to submit an app or a project for that. So you'll get to build 6 different applications as you go through the course, which can actually be really useful, since as someone who's just starting in this industry, in this field, you'll need to be able to show a portfolio consists of the work that you've done in order for you to actually qualify and be able to successfully land a job as a software engineer.
Yeah, wow, that's great. 6 projects, that is intense. One feedback that we always hear from our software engineering grads is that you are an absolutely stellar mentor and instructor. So how do you support or make yourself available to your students?
Yeah, well, I'm really happy about that with that feedback. So I'm glad that they do appreciate the work that that I do for them. And so one thing that I do is, well, I have that passion really for sharing whatever knowledge that I've gained throughout the years. I've been teaching even before migrating here in Australia. I was teaching back in the Philippines as well. I was able to teach in a university, and even from the institution that I graduated from. And even here, when I got to Australia, I still had a chance and an opportunity to teach. I taught at TAFE, and now I'm teaching here with Academy XI, right? So I've always had that passion, and so I've always just kept that sincerity to help someone out. And because again, I feel it's very fulfilling and it's very rewarding whenever I see my students actually succeed, and them being able to, just being able to see the joy in their faces whenever they're able to accomplish what they've actually set to accomplish, right? So and so I always so we do have an unlimited number of one-on-one or mentorship, right? It's not to say that we are going to hold you by hand, because that's not what we're going to do. But what we're going to do is we're going to support you with whatever help that you need. So we're going to get you or direct you to the right direction if ever that you're probably, so sometimes it's just stress because it's something new. And what I find is that most of the students that start in this course are prone to trying to memorize things, which I always do not encourage. Although yes, memorization does come handy if you can memorize them without stressing out, right? But if you're stressing out having to memorize things, please don't, okay? Because again, you don't need to memorize it. You only need to understand the concepts, right? And by understanding the concepts, you'll know what to find. You'll know what to look for, and you'll know how to solve the problem. So that's basically what I always encourage my students with. And again, we have the internet. It's not like way back then wherein you can't just really search on Google and you won't find any information. But now just searching on Google, you'll practically get a lot of answers. Now it's just up to you to find the correct one.
Yeah, and then how to use it as well, and make sure you're proposing the correct solution. And then in addition to obviously the support that the students are able to get from you, they also have other sorts of mentoring and support available to them. Do you have any feedback about the career support program that we offer our students?
Yes, so our career support program is actually a very good additional support to our students, because once so after they finish, or no, actually even before they finish, if they're just about to finish the course, our career support does actually get in touch with them and are now trying to help them build their portfolio if ever they do need help with that. And also our career support program actually helps them try to connect to our business partners, to other companies that we're partnered with, or even to new companies that are reaching out to us and trying to look for new software engineers.
Yeah. And they've had a good amount of success as well. Of course, it only depends on how much the student is willing to put in as well. It is very much a collaborative relationship there. So I wanted to just touch upon this word portfolio, which you mentioned. So in the design world, of course, we always talk about having a portfolio of work to showcase your skills to employers. Is that the same for software engineering?
Yes, so it is the same, but at the same time, it's also a little bit different, because I'm not too sure about how it is back in the design field, right? Because once you have the design, I think that's what really mostly matters. But in software engineering though, yes, it's great for you to have a portfolio. But again, with that said, knowing that you can just really Google and search for a tutorial, and you can actually build an app, right? So it's a lot more, it gets a lot more technical. So it's not enough for you to show something that you've developed an app that's working, which is amazing, right? But you need to be able to actually walk through the whole development process, and how did you develop it, why did you develop it, right? So you need to be able to explain. And because what usually happens in an interview, right? So if they do actually ask you to show whatever projects that you've worked with, they might ask you questions about, okay, so why did you use this? Why did you use that? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? So you need to be able to justify, you need to be able to explain yourself, right? So, and just by following a tutorial, you won't be able to answer all those questions. And sometimes they may even go to your code that you've written, right? And they may ask you to do something, or probably ask you out, and then probably flip your code inside out. And if you just followed a tutorial or a set of instructions to be able to come up with a project, right? You most likely will not be able to answer that. So, which there's actually, I've had a few students who had that encounter wherein they tried applying, and since they well, they've just started anyway, so and that was from their previous experiences, because even before they've enrolled, they've already been playing around with coding and they've followed certain tutorials and whatnot. But yeah, so again, although tutorials do have its place for learning, but for you to become a successful software engineer, you need to be able to do something on your own without having to rely onto a tutorial.
It makes so much sense. You basically need to start thinking like a software engineer, right?
Exactly.
Rather than just knowing the exact step to follow, but it's more about the logical problem solving process and how you explain it to somebody as well, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so my next question was actually just going to refer to the software engineering interview process and what does that typically look like? And how would one best prepare for technical interviews? I think you've touched upon some of those already.
Yes. Well, again, the interviews do actually vary from company to company, and they usually start with just getting to know you. Usually, it's an initial call, just trying to get to know you, right? About so your personal information, and then what are you interested in? A few details about that, and then as you move on, they'll get you into an interview, whether it's in person or still online, virtually, right? And they'll ask you about certain specific things. They might get you to might ask you certain technical questions about the specific stack that they're using in the company that that you're applying for, and sometimes also again they may just ask you about yours, the how you are as a person, because again it's not all about the technicalities, because although yes, it does have a lot of technical things that are involved, but again, there's plenty of soft skills that's also going to really become that's going to become essential at work. Okay, so whether they'll try to find out whether you are someone who has an initiative, who can learn on your own, right? And who is again, they'll know whether you're a problem solver and whether do you really enjoy doing what you do. So yeah, and the technical things usually just follow, and they may give you a take home project to work with, or they may actually get you to work on a coding challenge in some cases, to work on site, or it depends on what's the setup that they've actually set up for you.
All right. So even there, I suppose if you're getting stuck, the idea is to always explain what your thought process is, what your logic is. And even if you don't come up with the best solution, they'll appreciate the thought process behind it, right?
Exactly, which is why we heavily really focus on getting our students to do have a project review, wherein we get our students to we review our students projects individually, and we get them to walk through their code for us, and so that then we'll be able to find out whether they have actually understood the code that they've written or not. So, and sometimes we'll flip it around and do it similarly as what would usually happen in an interview, just to get them the hang of it, and to better prepare them as well, because those kind of things usually do happen.
Yeah, wow, that's really good practice for the interviews, right?
Yes.
Real world. I see that we have a few questions from the audience. I might move to some of those and then come back to my list of questions so that the audience has their questions answered. One of our members here has asked, wondering how I can upskill while working full time. Have always worked in tech, but need to update my coding and web skills and would like to progress my career. Is this possible at 46 years old? Also, I have tried some online courses self-paced in the past, but it can be difficult and overwhelming to know where to start.
Yes. So, well, again, upskilling is again, it's an investment, right? So you need to be able to be willing to put up certain sacrifices, whether that may be your time, your money, and your effort as well. So it can really become a challenge, especially if you're still working, right? But although that's not to say that it's impossible, because that's definitely where we got quite a lot of students is actually working and then upskilling at the same time. And one perfect example is actually Barry. He's a physiotherapist. He's actually working full time, and then he's also enrolled in a full-time course. I salute that guy. I mean, yeah, he's fully committed. He's done, you know, the work. He's done all the sacrifices that's needed in order for him to become successful. And he's actually working now at ReadyTech as one of the software engineers there. Sorry, my why my alarm is still set up. But yeah, so again, it's not impossible. So, and I do get your sentiment about having tried a self-paced course, which, well, it can be useful, but again, there are other challenges that comes with that. And again, so I think you've also mentioned that there, that it's hard for you to to progress because there's no one who's guiding you, right? Which is really going to become useful when you're just starting out. If you are someone who's already got quite a lot of experience and doing some coding and whatnot, then I guess doing some self-paced course can become really useful and become really handy for upskilling. But for someone who's just starting out and who doesn't really know much about the software engineering, right? So having someone to mentor you and actually to guide you and to point you into the right direction would really be useful and would be really a great advantage. So with that again, so upskilling is you need to commit to that. Because otherwise, it's going to really become a great challenge for you.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And, just on that topic, we do have the part-time course as well available for people who want that support and they want to be guided through an experience, but also don't have the bandwidth to commit full-time study, because full-time can be 30, 40 hours a week of study, which is a lot.
40 to 50 hours.
Yeah, that's a lot to balance with other life commitments. So we do recommend the part-time option for those who are actually working at the moment. It takes longer, obviously, it's double the time, 10 months worth of course, but people find it usually easier to tackle that along with a full-time workload.
Yes, definitely it is. And yeah, well, most of our part-time students are actually also working, still working full-time, which is why they took the part-time route of of enrolling into our course.
Yeah, that's right. Another question here is very specific, so I'm not sure if we'll have the answer, but do you have business partners or employer contacts based in Perth, Western Australia?
Oh, yeah, I'm probably not the one who can answer that question.
Yeah, it would be one of
yeah,
our course advisors would
yeah.
probably be able to answer that much better. So whoever has asked this question, I would encourage you to give a call to one of our course advisors and have a chat to them. They'll be able to guide you towards, our career support team and what sort of contacts they have available with them.
That's right.
So I'll move on. I have had a couple of other questions come in on another forum, so I'll just take those. Okay, is there anybody that the software engineering transform course would not be suitable for, and what would you recommend instead?
The software engineering transform for that's not going to be suitable for them. I guess if you're someone who's got like really specific goals, right? You need to assess yourself whether it is something that's for you. Because what we basically teach here in the software engineering transform course is the generic set of skills that you'll need to have as in order for you to become a successful software engineer, right? But if you want to, let's say, for example, you want to work into a specific field of the industry, like for example, you want to become a data analyst or a scientist, right? So you're probably better off applying for a course that actually do teach specific data analytics or data scientist courses. And if you want to get into gaming, right?
Yeah.
You might probably want to get into game development specifically, if that's your goal, right? Although if you are, if all you're after for is that you want to gain the specific, skills, technically in becoming an engineer, right? In building apps. So then the software engineering transform course can probably provide help for you. Okay. And although it's not to say that you won't get something out, even if you want to become a data analyst or become a game developer, right? Again, so we teach the general skills that you'll be needing, which can still be useful even when you jump onto game development or data analytics skills industry, right? So yeah.
Thanks, Albert, for that. I encourage our audience here to share more questions if you have any, because we do have some time to touch upon them. Moving on to the next one, we know that there are troves of free websites and tutorials available online where anybody can self-learn software development. So why would anybody choose to invest in a bootcamp experience?
Yeah, so definitely, that's always a common question for everyone. I mean, why would I pay for something that I could get for free, right? I
I
mean,
just address the elephant in the room. Yeah.
exactly, right. And again, upskilling is an investment, right? So if you don't have the budget to pay for something, right, then you can actually just use some free resources. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But again, there are certain challenges and there are certain benefits from you actually learning or being part of a boot camp or being part of a uni degree, for example, or whatever. So each thing does have their own advantage, right? But I'll just talk specifically about the boot camps, and then just from the free tutorials that you'll probably come across out there. With the free tutorials, yes, you'll be guided and you'll learn probably how to write code and some programming languages. Yes, you can. I'm not saying that you can't, and there's the possibility, but most of the students or people that do take this, the self-learning route, it actually takes them longer, right? Because again, there's no one to guide them. There's no mentor to direct them. Okay, so this is what you need to do, and this is how you do it, right? Well, as becoming part of a boot camp, so you become a part of a community, and on top of that is you do have a mentor that can actually guide you and try to set you up in the right track. And which is actually a very good thing that we do offer here. And I've got plenty of students, and it's again, all of them coming from different backgrounds. So some may actually need more support and some may not even need support. You just need to point them in the right direction and they're fine. And then they usually just progress quite smoothly. But for some, there's actually, you need to redirect them because they probably have taken the wrong path or whatever, or they're probably doing something different. And probably there are certain challenges when it comes to how they're learning things, right? And again, so one of those things that I usually find is that most students are actually getting stressed out trying to memorize things, which you shouldn't be. And again, take it from Albert Einstein himself. He said it, well, not really verbatimly, but he's saying that why, memorize something that you can easily look up to or reference, right? So don't memorize something that, you can always just open a book or Google search and you'll find the answer. So you don't need to memorize the syntax of the code because you can always look it up. So you can freely search like, okay, so how do I write an if statement in Ruby or in Python or in JavaScript? Okay, so it's easy. So you don't even need to memorize that. The thing that you need to remember is that, okay, so why do I need to use an if statement or these conditional statements, which again, to me, some of you may not probably even know about this kind of things, right? But yeah, those are just some of the technical things that you will be learning. So yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Albert. I have one more question here. Do you have many mature students in their mid 40s, such as myself, who have changed career and had success with your course?
Oh, yes, no, definitely. Actually, Barry is one of them. I think Barry is now in his 40s as well. And we have a current student who is almost 60. So again, age isn't really an issue, right? It's an issue, well, again, as you grow older, you do get a lot more responsibilities, and that's probably just going to become your most your the most challenging part of it, because again, you have a lot more responsibilities. Well, as for those who are younger, yes, they may have work, but they probably don't have a family, they don't have kids, they don't have babies and whatnot. But for people who is more mature, they usually have a lot more to take care of. So yeah, again, so there's nothing wrong, or there's no issue with regards to your age. It's just if you are willing to learn, and if you can commit yourself to learning, and you are and again, you are into it, you're willing to go through it to the end, basically, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can always be learning, right? And as a software engineer, I think that that's one of the key things about being a software engineer is like you have to be willing to learn, because you might learn a programming language today, and then 1 year from now, it's outdated and you need to pick up a new one anyway. So I suppose like as long as you have that learning mindset, the world is your oyster.
Yes, no, exactly. So that's very true.
Yeah. And on that note, actually, Barry, sorry, Albert, more of a personal question for you. How do you keep up to date with, the trends and what's going on in the software engineering space?
Yeah, I keep up to date by always just, if I would encourage everyone to, go on YouTube. There's plenty of creators there who does, who talks about in general about the software engineering industry, and sometimes they may even give you some updates about, okay, so there's a new update with this like for example with React or other tech stacks. And yeah, and usually they provide tutorials, and you can also subscribe to emails and whatnot. And again, just freely exploring into whatever's new, right? So because for me, in my case, I enjoy it, and I think of it as I'm just kind of like playing a game, trying to solve a puzzle and whatnot. So I don't know, each one is different, so you'll just have to to work around that. So and again, just always look into things, subscribe to, again, to newsletters and whatnot that do offer certain updates. And you don't always have to do it every day, right? So you just be aware. Okay, oh, all right, so there's actually a new update with this tech stack, or there's this new programming language, there's this new framework, and there's this new platform that does certain things for you. So
Yeah. It's really good to hear this insight from somebody who's, so closely attuned with the industry. Oh, I have a new question here from Rodrigo. I am totally okay with being 34 and applying for a junior role. Though, do recruiters or interviewers look at you differently when you're older?
No, I wouldn't say that. That's basically a company culture. I mean, if it matters to them, it matters to them. But in general, though, it doesn't. In most companies, it doesn't really, because again, I think we do have a discrimination law here in Australia. They're not allowed to do that, to discriminate by age. And again, Barry is actually one perfect example that I've just stated earlier. Although there are a few as well, right? Who's Barry, as mentioned, is in his 40s, and he started as a junior at ReadyTech. So that shouldn't be an issue. What they're mostly looking at is your skills and how you'll actually become useful as part of their team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about what you can bring to the company culture, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we are almost just 2 minutes off time here. So I just want to maybe wrap up and say thank you so much, Albert, for sharing your insights and advice with us today. I know that I learned a lot today, and I hope all of you on the call as well have been able to take something from this session. We will be sending out a link to this recording soon, so keep your eyes peeled. It might be a day or two before we send that out. And we'll also send you a survey in the coming days and would greatly appreciate your responses, which will, help us to plan future online events such as these. So just want to say thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks again, Albert, and we hope to see you all soon.
All right. Thanks, Kritika. Thanks, everyone. Hope you have a great day.
Thanks a lot. Bye, everyone.